Among various religious faiths of Dravidians of South India, worship of divine spirits called Bhutha Aradhne or Daiva Aradhne appears to be the most primitive. This form of spirit worship ritual is usually termed Bhutakola or Bhutanema. The Bhuta ritual is a composite form of worship offered to dead ancestors, marked heroes, or animals in a deified form. Usually a night-long event, it is marked with makeup, ornate costumes, music, dance, dialogue, entertainment, and most of all, by the piety of those participating. The people of coastal districts of Karnataka have been observing for a long time certain periodical festivals in honor of various Bhuta at family level, community level, and village level. Any reference to Bhutas and their worship evokes a sense of reverence, and places, persons, and objects associated with it are regarded as sacred by the local people. Bhuta, in literary usage, often is synonymous with terms like ghost, devil or demon. In Tulunadu, the term Bhuta connotes essentially a divine spirit, which deserves worship and periodical propitiation. The land situated between river Chandragiri of Kasargod in the south and river Kalyanpura near Udupi in the north is popularly called Tulunadu. The region is bounded on the west by the Arabian Sea. And on the east by the precipitous slopes of the Western Ghats. In coastal Karnataka, one commonly comes across a Ashwath Katte, pipal tree with a platform, a Nagabana with serpent stones, and a Bhuta shrine. Bhuta worship, serpent worship, and Siri worship are three major worship traditions here. People of Tulunadu have deep religious faith. Bhutaradhane lies at the core of the village life in this region. It is prevalent among the non-Brahmin Tuluvas. Almost all people among Hindus and Jains, and among Christians and Muslims, also believe in this cult. The origin of Bhutha cult may be traced to totemism and ancestral worship. Different types of Bhutas have come into vogue, depending on the significance of people who worship them. They can be family deities, local or village deities, or deities associated with administrative units, such as manorial estates, groups of estates, districts, or even small kingdoms, when they are called royal Bhutas. Bhuta faith is perhaps more dominant in Tulunadu than the worship of Vedic gods and goddesses mediated by Brahmin priests. This is demonstrated by the fact that in many ancestral households, where the whole family lives, Bhuta has a place of its own, in a corner, or a separate room of the house. The interior of this room is mostly dark, signifying the mystery of the supernatural spirit. Here, ritual objects are often placed on small suspended wooden cords. Shrines of varying dimensions are dedicated to separate Bhutas in hamlets, villages, and towns. Sometimes the shrines are situated at a height, on top of a hillock or hill. Placed on this high pedestal, the supernatural being is believed to be overseeing the regions in his charge. The Bhuta Sthana, also known by the name Gudi and Gunda, is like a temple or shrine where idols of Deva are kept and worshipped. But unlike mainstream Hindu gods, they are not worshipped every day. Instead, festivals are conducted for the spirit in front of these structures, once in a year. Bhuta Kola season starts from November and goes on until the last week of May, the period just before the monsoon. The beliefs woven around this ancient form of practice are very interesting. For instance, there are different kinds of Bhutas, each claiming descent from a particular god or goddess, and the number is very large. There are spirits of human origin, spirits of cultural heroes who met with tragic death, spirits corresponding to animals such as tiger, buffalo and wild boar, that were originally totems of different tribes. One can find Bhutas of Muslim origin too. Only few examples are given here, but over 400 of these spirits exist. Different makeup and costumes are used to symbolize the characteristic features of spirits, thus making each Bhuta unique in its appearance. Every Bhuta is given a specific identity by way of name, sex, symbol, place of origin, and duties to discharge. It is a common belief that each Bhuta controls or governs particular aspect or aspects conducive to human welfare. By propitiating the concerned Bhuta, favorable results may be secured. Pilichandi Bhuta guards agricultural fields and effectively prevents crop thefts, and it also protects cattle from being lifted away by tigers. Kodmanitaya protects crops against depredation by wild animals and ensures a good yield of agricultural produce. Bobbarya Bhuta exercises control over marine fishing, and by placating the Bhuta one can be sure of protection in the rough sea and a plentiful catch. The ceremonies are held in a well-decorated pandal, embellished with palm leaf and mango leaf festoons. It may vary from the simplest to highly complex, depending upon the speciality of the Bhuta and those who conduct it. Here, at the other end of the pandal, are other members of impersonator's family, preparing items needed during the ritual. These men and women are highly skilled artisans. Out of natural objects, like the tender coconut leaves called tiri in Tulu, they weave beautiful costumes and ornaments, with highly intricate designs which they wear during the performance. This type of worship has its own institution of professional priests and impersonators. The role of Bhuta impersonator is the prerogative of members belonging to castes low in hierarchy, like Naleke, Parava or Pambada. These men are at the center of this performance. By representing the supernatural being, these men command respect and tribute from all sections of people. Though economically poor, they persist rich cultural treasures. They are committed to a life of dramatizing the spirit when a performance takes place. The role of women in these rituals is only that of a logistics provider. The female spirits are also impersonated by male members. Preparations for the night-long ceremony begin in the evening with the arrival of the paraphernalia called the Bhuta Bhandara from the sthana to the beautifully decorated ritual site. The Bhandara is a collection of armor, sword, shield, trident, and ornaments such as headgear, masks, and jewelry. Along with organizers, members of the whole village also take part in the procession. The ritual objects are placed on an altar. Bhuta rituals are organized generally by the Banta or Billava caste. The role of Brahmin priest in these rituals is minimal. It is significant to note that in various stages of Bhutaradhane, people belonging to different castes of the society perform different roles concerning the act of worship. If not worshipped periodically, it is believed that anger of these spirits could bring bad luck. The sun sets in the skies of Tulunadu. A kola or nema usually starts after dusk and continues until the wee hours of the morning. A few are held during daytime. The evening starts with the main performer receiving oil for a ritual bath. It is a symbol of giving assignment to the impersonator to participate in the performance. Generally, the Bhuta performer applies the oil and takes bath as a form of preparing his body for the strenuous exercise. After the bath, the impersonator stands before the bhandara, plays the drum, tembare and recites portions of the epic song. Here, a Parava is singing the narrative legend that describes the story of the Bhuta to be invoked, its historic deeds, and its sphere of influence. These epic songs help the impersonator not only to enact the character of the spirit, but to become the spirit itself through the process of self-hypnosis. The impersonator gets slightly possessed during this initial ritual, which is evident from convulsions in his body. Singing divine stories in a ritualistic manner is part of this worship. Next, the impersonator adorns himself with elaborate costumes, applying appropriate colors on his well-oiled face and body. They are also expert artists in putting on the makeup. Here, a performer is putting on the makeup of a Ullaya spirit, with colorful spots artistically marked on his face. The designs of the makeup are varied according to the nature of the deity represented. Even as the medium of spirit is engrossed in the facial makeup, female members of his family sing the epic song of the Bhuta to be invoked. Beats of the drum tembare accompany the song. He is slowly prepared for self-hypnotism and for imposing the spirit on him. Dressing up with traditional jewelry belonging to the spirit follows. Costume may also include a small headgear tied to the forehead or an elaborate headgear stringed to the back of the dancer. Bhutaradhane is an enchanting world including color, dance, music, sculpture and literature. In fact, every element of this tradition can be studied extensively. The pandal gives the appearance of a ritualistic stage, with the image of the deity and other objects of worship well arranged on one side and the disciplined devotees on the other side. The musicians are seated on another side. The Bhuta performers enter the stage and take permission of the organizers to begin the ritual formalities. The cultural aspect of Bhuta worship is very attractive. This forms the core of the Bhuta tradition. There is no written document specifying the cultural proceedings of the ritual. People themselves have created and developed the cultural theatre based on their experience and imagination. Tuluvas have preserved authenticity and elaborate formality in these rituals. Performers hold a pair of anklets in hands and dance a series of steps to the beats of a small group of musicians with drum and wind instruments. Tuluvas regard Bhutas as divine spirits, whom they worship in order to appease them and get their blessings. Bhutas perform the roles of protector and savior. At the end of the dance, they finally wear the anklets. This is followed by wearing the initial costume, the tiri, a gown which runs down his waist. The impersonators again enact a series of steps and actions. They get possessed. The performers stand in front of the gathered people to offer prayers and sprinkle grains of rice on them. The spirit addresses the host, wanting to know the reason behind his invocation. The organizers propitiate the spirit and beg protection prosperity, good crop, and wealth for the entire community. The chief impersonator is given one or two burning torches. He then shows exploits of the spirit and exhibits miraculous feats like holding the torch of fire close against his chest. This part of the ritual is prelude to the main event. At the central stage of the Bhuta ritual, the chief impersonator puts on the full costume. The kernel of the costume is the headgear and the mask of the spirit. Each Bhuta has his or her own characteristic mask or headgear. The headgear is made of either coconut fronds, areca spathe or metal, and the mask is usually made of areca spathe or metal. The mask is sometimes worn on face and sometimes on head. Soon, a state of complete trance envelopes the impersonator. The depth of the tempo of background music also increases. The attendant of the spirit gives him his sword and other paraphernalia. Some of the scenes of worship at this stage are awe-inspiring. Apart from according physical health and mental peace, the medium of spirit assumes the role of a tribunal and settles village and family disputes, an alternate method of justice delivery. Here, the decision of the impersonator is final, without provision for appeal. Particularly difficult cases may be adjourned to the next year by the Bhuta. This is the scene outside a Jumadi shrine in the early morning hours. Inside, the Bhuta blesses each devotee with a touch of his sword and hands out kumkum and areca flower, which people take home as prasada. Procession, trance, and the dialogue of the medium with the devotees are the crucial stages of Bhutaradhana. All across Tulunadu, Bhuta worship reveals a wide variation in relation to ritual formalities, customs, feats performed, and appeasing the spirits. Even though the man who dons the costume of the Bhuta usually belongs to the lower caste, people from all walks of life follow his command. Amongst the religious faiths found in Tulunadu, Bhuta cult, it appears, is the oldest, and there can be little doubt regarding its indigenous origin. The exact period of the origin of this practice remains largely unclear. It is estimated that the practice is at least 4 to 5 centuries old. It is also one of the most spectacular ritual traditions. Colorful costumes with big headgear, the brandishing of weapons, the elaborate song, loud music, and dance of the Bhuta makes the entire experience delightfully surreal. Bhuta worship has historical connection with the politics and administrative setup of Tulunadu. It holds a mirror to the customs and practices of the Tuluvas. It even promotes communal harmony in the region. Bhutas are said to be forces on earth that are benevolent to the believers and malevolent to the unfaithful. There is a saying attributed to spirits in Tulunadu: "I shall not leave ones who believe in me and make the non-believers to believe in me." In Tulunadu, these age-old beliefs and customs, associated as they are with the Bhuta cult, are living realities even to this day. This folk religion has survived from ancient times mainly on account of its intrinsic vitality. Even today, Bhuta worship remains part and parcel of Tulu folk culture.